SCC has been revived this year. And we're committed to educating students about global issues and global citizenship. Paul has experienced many global issues firsthand, including war, forced migration, loss, immigration to a new land, acquiring multiple languages and cultures, the creation of a new identity, and finally, a life that knits together the past and the present as a transnational athlete, competing for the Liberian national track team as a resident of the U.S. Paul is a concrete example of what it means to be a global citizen. It's been an honor to have him in my English for Academic Purposes courses this semester while he does his master's in TESOL at MSU. Please listen to Paul's story and be sure to think of questions. Think of questions. I'm looking at my students to ask him after his talk. Without further ado, let's welcome Paul Nabo Selman.
Thank you. First off, I would like to thank Dr. Chiron for having me here. It's very important that I tell my story and to encourage others. For SCC for hosting it, and Dr. Nancy Drasser for getting this all in motion. She don't think she played a crucial part, but she did, accepting me into the master's program at Minnesota State, and my colleagues for backing me up when we're supposed to be in a master's course, but my ability is still at a college undergrad course, and their ability to bear with me and adapt. First, I would like to give you guys a story of where it all started, why I was thinking and reflecting. It all started in Atlanta, Georgia, my junior year of college. I and three of my athletes from the Liberian national team just got done with our session of practice, and it was 110 degrees out. I got 2 shades blacker, and our coach took us to downtown Atlanta for a meal. While we're sitting there, Zeze, our first leg, goes, "Wow, it's amazing that we're here right now, representing a country that nearly killed us all when we were babies, and replacing us with these tortures and giving us problems. Now we're representing them. How amazing." And Matati goes, our leader in the group, yeah, it was amazing that we made it out alive. I barely made it out with my mom and dad, and to represent these guys, it's kind of like an honor. And I was still eating then. I couldn't really comprehend what they're all saying, but Akeem, our youngest, goes, "Yeah, I lost my dad during that fight, and my mom was nearly surviving when made that walk to Sierra Leone." At this point, I stopped eating and reflected back on my past accomplishment and how I was lucky enough to be among with these guys that are 1 in a million Liberians, to be representing them at a big level, even though they tried to kill us off when we were just little kids. And our coach said something interesting. He was like, "I acknowledge your efforts for representing a country that exiled you guys for no reason, that almost killed you guys off, but have the courage to put them on your chest and run for them. That's not what normal people do, in a sense. And he's like, hold on to this memory for your life. Whatever you do from here on, and whatever you did to get to this point, you did a pretty damn good job, because you're sitting here. Some of you guys graduated college. Some are going to your master's or thinking about it. I congratulate you guys. And I was still eating because I was pretty hungry. The rooftop bar was getting chilly. It was 109 degrees, so I put on my sweatshirt, and they all looked at me and they were like, "What's your story?" And at this point, I was like, I have come a long way. I have endured hardship over the years. And to represent this country, it's a great honor, because my junior and senior year, that's what I wrote to a letter to myself when my coach asked me to highlight what I want to be in 5 years. So while I was in that chair, I was reflecting back, and this reflection is what I'm going to present to you guys today. I love this quote by Ben Carson. "I am convinced that knowledge is power to overcome the past, to change our situation, to fight new obstacles, to make better decisions." And I agree with this quote 110%, because knowledge allows you to break out those chains that you were bondage in, to make you be a better you. And as my athletic ability improved, so did my academic. I could understand more, and with those understanding, I gained new opportunities to be here right now. It all started on December 24th. There was 2 civil wars that my country had endured. And I was born May 16, 1995. When I was born, the first civil war left the country devastated. Education was bare minimum for most kids my age. So my first instructor was my mom, a lovely lady who taught me French, English, and our native tongue, Da. And I gave a lot to her. She's not with us right now, and I'll tell you guys why later on. But I tip my hat off to her, because she keeps blessing me every year that I'm alive. After the Civil War, both Civil Wars were through in 2003. Nearly half of the population either died or was displaced somewhere in other countries. This video of the Blood Diamond, which was originally from Congo, was the exact representation of what the rebel forces were like when they came to our village, and every village that was in their path to get what they wanted. This video is extremely hard to watch, and if you can't watch it because of the violence and brutality, I advise you to step out, because it's really bad, a representation of what happened.
And yeah.
Sorry that you guys can't hear it, but there's subtitles, and
Put your mic wherever the voice is coming from.
I can pause it there. During the two turns of the war, the second wave felt more harsh. They came at with greater authority than the first wave. And with this, they brought more disaster through every village that they came to. I was fortunate enough that my stepdad and my mom knew that this was coming. There was chatter across the land. So we went on this month-long adventure through the woods to get to Sierra Leone, our bordering country. While on this walk, at first the walk seemed normal. We had shoes, tents, clothing, water, food, but condition rapidly worsened. Our shoes was destroyed and our belongings were taken from us. It was better to sleep during the day and walk at night because it was a lot safer for us. Walking in a pack, we were walking with 6 other families. By the end of the walk, we were only left with 3 families because of starvation, rebel forces picking and choosing who to kill next. But we finally made it to Sierra Leone. And while we were in Sierra Leone in the refugee camp, there was their language and our language, and you can tell how confusing this was to me with throwing different languages that you can't understand and sticking out like a sore thumb. All the refugees had to wear a name tag saying you're a Liberian refugee, and we were treated harshly. Like, why don't you go back to your country, or you don't belong here? And food and water was scarce throughout the refugee camp as more and more people started feeding to them. As my brother and I and countless of thousands of refugees, we couldn't go to school at that point because it was only for those families with money, and we just left all our belongings to try to save our own lives. So for the first 8 years of my life, my mentor was just my mom, and I've never actually seen my dad because he passed away in the first wave of the Civil War. So my mom and my stepdad was the only people I knew. But devastation struck again when the refugee camp became less limited with resource, and she was pregnant during that walk and everything with my little sister. And as her condition worsened, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Jessica, my little sister. but in return, she died because of the lack of hospital supplies and nutrition. But luckily, 3 months later, we were lotto picked to come to America. And everybody was saying, wow, when you go to America, you have countless opportunities. The streets are paved with gold. It's everything you could ever wonder. And we were young back in the day, so we let our imagination wander. So we got on a plane through a church organization, and we came to Miami. And the first days in Miami were like, they're probably right. Everything looks beautiful out here. It was summer and everything. We lasted a week there. And then the organization was like, your family is going to Texas, your family is going to California, your family is going to Baltimore, New York, and then they looked to us, was like, your family is going to Chicago. We're like, okay, Chicago sounds fun, but you have to think about, it was December, but we're in Florida, so we'd never seen snow before. So flying December to Chicago, I noticed everybody zipping up their coats when we landed. I was like, is the sun? I think the sun is too hot for them. But, okay. I looked out and I was like, wow, they told us America was white, but they're coming from the sky. And so we get off, and walking through O'Hare, I was confused because I was trying to comprehend words on the screen and posters, but none came to mind. So I was like, hey, all right. So I went by my way, and then a native speaker, a lady, came up to me and started talking to me. What we were taught in the refugee camp when we make it here, it reflect their facial expression. So she was happy, she was talking, and I thought I couldn't understand the language or comprehend it, so I was like, yeah. She was like, how you doing? I thought it was all different. She was speaking a foreign language and it was so fast, and I was like, So we get to our host family, and you have to remember, my brother and I were still in this survival state of what we experienced for 8 years back in Liberia and Sierra Leone. So our host family, the little brother was a snitch. My brother and I will always keep a little extra food underneath our pillows in case something disastrous happened. And he's like, Mom, Paul and Josh keep putting apples underneath their bed like we're gonna get attacked tomorrow. And over the time, she reassured us that everything is gonna be okay. Like, you guys are not in that situation anymore. This is America. You guys will be okay, you guys will be okay. And over the time, it lessened. But my first teacher in America was SpongeBob SquarePants, because they just stuck us in front of the TV because we didn't talk that much, and was like, all right, watch it, acquire some more language, and then talk to us when you guys are ready. So SpongeBob was my best friend growing up until I started 3rd grade at Field Elementary School. Amherst in Chicago was the top 3 richest suburbs in Chicago. And I was blessed from my lucky star above. My mom was just looking after me to put me in a school where I had one-on-one tutor, a lady by the name of Joyce View, helped me, and not a lot of ESL kids get that opportunity from going from not knowing the English to having an unlimited amount of resources at your fingertips. And I still to this day, I was like, well, thank you. I was in one of those families that went to Baltimore, the east side, the inner city, that I was selected to go to a suburb that I was the only African American kid. But the class looked like this, but the first day of school, it looked like this for me. I felt like I just was put in a cage and everybody was just looking at me like, ooh, an African kid. Let's ask him questions. You get the typical questions of suburban kids that, ooh, when you were walking, did you ever see an elephant? Yeah. You try to play along so you become popular. Yeah. I was chasing a lion last week, but then I'm here. They're like, oh, fascinated. So, going to field made me realize that standardized tests suck. Because the first few weeks, the principal was like, well, he has to take a placement test. And Joyce was like, he don't speak the language. How is he supposed to read and write? And they're like, well, he'll be okay. Like, he needs to take it so we can place him. She was like, how can we place him when he's not even gonna write anything on the piece of paper? And they were like, it's a start. So she was like, all right, give me a couple weeks with him. Let me see where he's at. And every day, for 4 hours a day, I was with Joyce. And one thing I could remember, she was like, on the second week, she gave me a piece of paper and a pen. And she was like, write as many words as you can. And me, all happy, is that a word? No. Is that a word? No. Try it again. Close enough. We'll try it again next week. So, I was fortunate and lucky to be in a situation where I was surrounded by resources and I can enrich my learning. And 3 years passed that I was at field, and my English improved dramatically. Joyce, working with her, and I still keep in contact with her these days because she was a pivotal part of my journey to be here right now. Without going to field and going to an inner city, I won't be standing right here talking to you guys. So 5th grade comes around and my stepdad beginning to slide into bad things with the law, so he decided to take us to Iowa, Des Moines, the inner city. And looking back, you are a product of your environment. Moving to the inner city, I felt like I just got in a time machine and went back in time because Joyce wasn't there anymore. I was stuck with ESL kids with one teacher and 30 kids in the classroom. So being that kid who always had that one teacher, really, I didn't have her anymore and brought my academic performance down. I learned another language. I was still on the teeter-totter, becoming who I want to become. And going to Des Moines really taught me that you are a product of the environment that you live in. I started going to school less and less and hanging out with the wrong crowd because that was how I was going to be protected on the east side of Des Moines. And we pleaded to Joyce to come and pick us up. And finally, she was like, okay, just finish a year there, and then you can start 6th grade, middle school. I'll come and pick you guys up, and y'all can live with a family out here for 6th grade. We're like, cool. I survived, and I did what I was supposed to do at the best of my knowledge. And finally, I got into middle school. Middle school taught me 2 things. Taught me that I was not good at school. I always looked like this every time the teacher said something because I was integrating to my speaking ability got me to more mainstream classrooms and less help. So every time I always look like this. And that's when I started incorporating sports to my extra to my school. And looking back at it in hindsight, that saved my life. Without sports, I won't be able to move up in the levels that got me into grad school today. It made me realize of the lack of education that I still need to fulfill, even if I want to move on into the world. First, realization of how sports can guide me to where I am right now. And that's when I started picking up wrestling, track, and soccer. And those three sports are gonna guide me to success. One story that I can remember from middle school was my athletic abilities got me through 6th grade, nearly past 7th grade. And because I was coachable and all the teachers knew my story and I was likable, I don't know how someone would like me, but I was likable and teachers knew that I was working hard, but the GPA did not reflect that. So each time they're like, okay, just do this and move on and you'll get to where you need to be. You're on the slow end, but you'll get there and we believe in you. And all the teachers at that middle school believed in me, but on graduation day, I was supposed to get the Athlete of the Year award, but they gave it to a kid that had good grades and was decent at sports. And that's when I realized that, yes, my athletic abilities would take me far, but if I don't have the grades, I'm just gonna be at square one again. So I made it a point that when I enter high school, both of them are gonna balance out in a way. High school felt confusing because I didn't know where to go. I went to Glenboro West High School, which Amherst is here, Glen Ellen is here for being the rich town. So I was fortunate going through my years being the only black kid in town, and they guided me. But high school was crucial because I met my coach, Pete Mistandria. He was just a gym teacher, but this man had nothing to gain from my success, but he took it upon himself to always there to bring me up. And looking back, I had Joyce, I had Coach Fermansky and the whole school from middle school backing me up, but high school, I had Pete Mistandria. And on the first day, he looked at me and was like, we've read your files before coming to our school, and all the teachers agreed that you are on the seesaw and you can go the bad direction or be a success at the end. And it's up to you of what you want to do. And at that point, I was like, I want to be a good kid. That's what you tell every grown up. But throughout the years, he was like, well, go out, have fun, but you have to be focused. And throughout the years, I was in mainstream classes, so ESL teachers didn't help me that much, but in a sense, I didn't belong in the mainstream classes. I belong in ESL, but to get out of college, to get into college and into sports, college coaches were looking for kids who are in mainstream classrooms and who can hold their own. So I worked hard to escape escape ESL classes, but it took a toll on my GPA because I was still lacking behind. And one of my goals was, since at an early age, all these languages were thrown at me left and right. I just wanted to fit in and be a master of one of them. And that was one of my goals going through college, through my schooling. It was my junior year, and Pete sat me down. He's like, look, there's colleges looking at you, but you have to get your ACT on check and your grades in check. And I was like, I'm trying, like, this is hard. I can barely read yet at like a high school level. He's like, I know you're trying, and you have to be coachable. So, write down where you want to see yourself in 2 years, 5 years, and 6 years. And after you complete these goals, I'll send this letter back to you. And I was like, that's weird, but okay. So sloppily, I wrote, I want to graduate high school. I want to graduate college. I want to be on the Liberian national team. And in small letters, maybe grad school. He was like, why did you put it in small letters? I was like, if I can't graduate high school, there was no chance of me going to grad school. He was like, okay. So he sealed it up and was like, I'll give it back to you when you graduate college. I was like, cool. So I knew that my athletic abilities would get me far in life, but I also needed to back it up with education. So I started going to tutors every day and night, study halls, everything. And finally, end of junior year, we had to take the ACT. I was pumped, but I never studied for the ACT because I didn't have the resources at that time. I went in saying, okay, I should be good. But the ACT is tricky, if any of you guys ever taken it. And it's long, and yeah. I came back, I had a 17 on it. It was devastating. Pete came up to me the next day. He was like, what did you get? I was like, 17, coach. He's like, we can do that again, can we? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay. Now set up goals that will help you achieve to get to a 19 or a 20 to get into one of these colleges. Because once you get in and you show these teachers and coaches, like how you showed me, that you're coachable, approachable, and you can do anything the mainstream kids can do, then you'll be all good. And I was like, okay. And I'll have to give credit to my older brother. He came here in middle school, so language was not his strong suit too, but he managed to get a scholarship for a college at a D1 program, full ride, for football. But he saw that my living condition at home wasn't good. So he dropped his full ride and got a job. So me and my little sister can live with him, and for me to accomplish high school and go on to college. And so he did that, and he came up to me and was like, what did you get on your ACT? I was like, a 17. I never practiced. I just got out of ESL classes, and they never taught us how to properly take the ACT. So he was like, okay, we're gonna work. I'll work extra so I can give you tutors and stuff, and you'll retake it. And retaking it costs like $200 in Illinois. So I got tutors and everything else, and retook it, and I got a 20 on my ACT finally. And coach came up to me. He was like, I knew you can do it. You just had to listen to the interview. So at this point, I had colleges calling, but with my first ACT, I saw the colleges just going away. And then once I finally retook the test, there was no colleges left because it was time to sign that you're going to college. So, but this one coach always had faith in me, and it was Coach George Pincock from Millikan University, a small liberal college, D3 college in Illinois. And I didn't know how I made it. And this college cost $40,000 to go in because it was top of his class for liberal colleges. And he was like, you've been through a lot, and you show me that you're coachable. That's why I accepted you in and talked to the deans and everybody that I could, and you'll be sponsored to go to their school. D3s can't get full rides, but they cut $40,000 to $10,000 for me due to sponsorship, grants. I even got a academic scholarship. I was like, those exist? So he did all he could for me, and I was blessed because my God-given abilities took me to where I could never dream of. And with that, I realized that I need to balance that, and Milliken was a crucial place for me because after the first year at Milliken, I was a two-sport athlete of the year. I cleaned out all the record boards with my name on it. Athlete of the year because I played soccer and track. And I got the attention of coaches at Minnesota State. Jim came up to me, he was like, we always knew you needed help a little bit, and going to that school brought up your grades enough that we can accept you at our D2 program. And that's how I became an athlete with Minnesota State. And I've learned over the years that you have to be coachable in everything you do. Apparently, as ESL kids, we have to be not as hard-headed, but we need to I lost my train of thought, but I'll get back to it. Sorry. But going through Minnesota State, I've learned that life is hard for ESL kids, and I understand that because I was a ESL kid. But being the best you can do every day will bring out supporters around you. And in my situation, with being torn into war, loss of two mom and dad, and just have my brother and sister with me, I could have went down the dark hole of no return. But as my coach best put it, something special was in me that I wanted to rise above everything else. And I managed to graduate Minnesota State with a C plus B minus average GPA. And I always wanted to go to grad school, but I was like, there's nobody gonna accept me with a C plus. I always wanted to be a teacher because I knew the feeling of being an ESL kid. And I was like, nobody's gonna accept me in the educational program with a 3.0 a C plus B minus GPA. So, but my Pete gave me the letter again. He's like, well, you did accomplish all that you said you were, and you even made the Olympic team. Congrats. Now, you have one more thing that you needed to accomplish on that. Just apply. Let's see how it goes. And I thought about it, and I was like, education. That was not even my major. How am I gonna get in? And with my GPA, there's no way they're gonna accept me. He's like, apply, let's see how it goes. I sent in my application, and Dr. Nancy Drescher was my guardian angel through all the process. And she believed in me before I even believed in myself. She's like, you have something in you that not a lot of us do. The first thing she ever said to me was, if me and you are teachers, kids are gonna listen to you better because you've been through their shoes than they're gonna listen to me, even though I have 40, 50 years of experience on you. Not that old. She understand what I mean. But while sitting there, reflecting back, I told them, I uttered the word in Atlanta. Well, yes, we've all come a long way, but the main thing that I will say that got me here is being coachable and not taking anything for granted. Thank you all for coming for me to talk in front of you guys today nervously.